Okay, so a parabola is a set of all points. Now, we've had this definition, not something you have to memorize, but with ellipses and hyperbolas, we had 2 focus points. But with a parabola, we have 1 focus point, and I'll come back here, and then we have 1 line. Okay? So it's the distance to a fixed point, which we call the focus, and a fixed line. Do y'all remember the name of that fixed line or find it on your paper? What's the other one? Directrix. The axis of symmetry does something a little different. Is the same. Okay? So, on a parabola, I'm going to let y'all copy that down. I'll show you what I mean for the definition. The vertex is going to be HK. What used to be HK in the other 3? The center. So we got to keep that straight. Thankfully, you have a blue card that has all these formulas and labeled and all that on there. All right. P is the distance from the vertex to the focus. There is no center of a parabola. Okay. And then likewise, this is going to work from vertex to directrix as well. But this is where we usually start with this. We use absolute value of P right there because P could be positive or negative, but a distance is always going to be positive. Okay, then we have something called a focal chord. Look at the first part of that word, focal. Why do you think we call it a focal chord? Because it contains the focus, and I'm going to draw the focal chord on this example down here. That's the focal chord. It's basically the width through the focus.
This is always in between.
Focus is always inside the curve of the parabola. Does anybody remember the length of the focal chord or find it on your blue card? 4P. And we should probably put absolute value bars around that in case P is negative. Okay, so we do have 2 different types of parabola. You're used to vertical parabolas. That's the one you've been doing since Algebra 1, although you haven't necessarily done focus and directrix. Okay, so let's write the standard equation. It's going to be y equals a, x minus h squared plus k. So the vertex is going to be hk. Now, remember with center, for h and k, we change the sign. You only do that with h here. See how this is x minus h? That's positive h right there. The k, though, remains the same. It's not in parentheses being squared. That may be how you remember that. Okay, axis of symmetry. Okay, look at this vertical parabola. This axis of symmetry, and let's go ahead and label it here. Here's the vertex, by the way. The axis of symmetry in a vertical parabola is what type of line? Don't say straight.
Vertical.
Vertical. So we need to go hoi vux. Vertical is x equals, and then which part of the vertex is the x coordinate? H. Okay, and you have all this on your blue card, but I want to explain to you where it comes from.
What do you say?
Okay, vertical line is x equals, and then which one of these 2 is the x coordinate? The h. Okay, the focus. Okay, remember how I said P is the distance between the vertex and the focus? So that's P right there. And if P is positive, you're going to go up, and if P is negative, you're going to move down. Okay, that's how the direction thing works. And so if you think about how you get for the vertex to the focus, what are you changing, the x or the y coordinate? If you're moving up, the y coordinate. So the x coordinate is going to stay the same, and the y coordinate we're going to add P. And that's going to be a subtraction move, again, if P is negative. Okay, here's the directrix down here. It is the line that's on the outside of the parabola. And what type of line is the directrix? Horizontal, so it's going to be y equals. And this distance right here is also P. You go one direction from the vertex to get the focus, and then you go in the other direction to get the directrix. So what is the y value of the vertex? K. So we're going to subtract P from K. Okay, I want you to take a minute, look at your blue card, and compare this to what's on your blue card. Let's make sure that we lined it up perfectly. Looks like everything's in order. Now, the one thing we haven't really gone over yet, I think this is on your notes, is how do we get P from the equation? And A is 1 over 4P. So when we get to a problem, I'll kind of talk about where this actually comes in. All right, so let's talk about a horizontal parabola. That's something we only talk about in conic sections. Okay, so I kind of missed this question up here. Sorry, guys. A vertical parabola. What's being squared in a vertical parabola? The x or the y?
X.
The x. So which thing is going to be squared in a horizontal? The y. Does that make sense? Considering for vertical, we think of x. For horizontal, we think of y. It's kind of different, actually. Okay, but you have all this on your blue card. So look at your blue card here. Or if you remember this from last year. This is not y minus h. Look what's happening here. We have minus k squared, and then what? Plus h. Now your vertex is still at hk. So when you get to a horizontal parabola to find your vertex, you're gonna switch the order of how you do this. You're gonna go to the outside. Don't change the sign though. Just go to the outside number, then comma inside number switch sign. Okay, so here's the vertex on this parabola.
If h is negative, it becomes positive, and
yeah, if this had said no, well, over here. Let's wait till we get to an example. I think it'll make more sense then. Okay, here we have a vertex. Okay, the axis of symmetry is the thing that goes right through the middle of the parabola. It's the symmetry. It's like the mirror. What type of line is the axis of symmetry? Horizontal, so that's going to be y equals. And which letter? H or K? Which is the y value? K. Okay, here's the focus right here. And remember, the focal chord is how wide the parabola is through the focus. We'll get to that in an example as well, where we actually find that. But the focus, remember how you get from vertex to focus is P. Now, before we were going up and down. Now we're going to the right. So think about your vertex. Which coordinate is changing if you're moving right?
x.
The x. So see that h? We're going to add P. And the y will stay the same. Okay, P is also this distance from vertex to directrix. What type of line is directrix? Vertical, so x equals. So think about the vertex. X value is h. And then we want to go backwards, so minus P. Okay. If we're all being honest here, probably most of us are a little confused by all the letters. Okay? So we have all these things, and we can really look at a problem and figure out what is A, what is P, what is K, what is H. But I wanted to explain to you the formulas because that's how I'm going to explain to you how to do the problems. Okay, we're actually not going to use these formulas. You can, but we're going to think it out a little bit more. So, example 1 is in standard form. Let me change the view on this so we can see the whole thing. Okay, of course, sometimes these are not in standard form. We'll have to deal with that. When you look at a parabola, you first have to decide this is a parabola. See how it's x, not x squared? That's how I know it's a parabola. Which direction is this parabola opening? Up, down, left, or right? So first, let's figure out, this is a horizontal parabola. Do you think this is going to open left or right based off of the negative in front of it? Left. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write that at the top. This is a Miss Brooks thing that I think makes the problem way easier if you just identify that from the very beginning. Okay. Vertex. Okay, the thing with horizontal, you got to go to this number first. The outside number doesn't change signs. The inside number does change signs. So 1, -2. So I'm not really even so much using those formulas as just reasoning through it. Okay, let's plot that point, 1, -2. There's my vertex. I'll put a little V right there. If your vertex is wrong, just like how before if your center was wrong, everything else is going to be wrong. So you've got to really be careful about that one. All right, now, axis of symmetry we can do right now. For a horizontal parabola, the axis of symmetry is this line right here. And that is what type of line? Horizontal. And which of these is the y coordinate? -2. So see, I'm asking the same kind of questions we did when we were talking about just in general. That's how I'm going to approach these problems. It's not about memorizing or even like, I don't know. Whatever. I'm going to move on. Okay, in order to do focus or directrix, I need to find a P. All right, so look at this. A is that number right there, -1/8. We also have a formula. I think a lot of the times people can look at this and say P equals something. And some other people are like, I need to solve an equation. If you can't look at that and know what P equals, then you need to set these two things equal to each other.
So is A always going to be equals 1/4P?
Yes.
So what makes
Right. So I'm going to cross multiply here and get this. And the negative could have gone on either side. So what does P equal? -2. Now, see that negative? That's because of the left thing. All right, so over here, I'm going to go to the left 2. Got it? 1, 2. That's your focus. What are those coordinates? -1, -2. And before I get into anything else, from the vertex, I'm going to go to the right 2, and instead of drawing a point, I'm going to draw a line. What is this line called? Directrix. I know that's kind of weird. Just think it's like Directrix. All right, that's a vertical line. So we're going to go x equals, and it looks like it's crossing at x equals 3, so I'm going to write x equals 3. So I'm not really using formulas here. You could do it that way. I'm not. All right, focal chord length. That's always the absolute value of 4p. So see how p was -2? So what's the focal chord length in this problem? 4 times -2 would be -8, but you absolute value that and you get +8. So this is how we're going to read this problem. We're going to, from the vertex, it's going to be 8 total. So how far should I go up and down from the vertex? 4, right? I want a total of 8. And this is how you're going to get points on your oh, sorry. Dang it. I was doing so good. Not from the vertex. What should we do this from? From the focus. Right? This is why it's called the focal chord length. Sorry about that. Now, these 2 points should be 8 units apart. And this is how you're going to draw the rest of your parabola. And you always want to make sure that you do open in the direction that you said you were going to open.
So you know it's going to the left because it's the negative side?
Yes.
And of course
It's x equals instead of y equals. And we started off with an x equals because that's the more complicated one. All right, let's turn the page. And of course, we're going to do one that's not in standard form. Okay? It's not that bad though. How do we know, first of all, that this one's even a parabola? Yeah, you see how it has a y squared, but no x squared? Okay, do you know which type of parabola that's going to be then? So one of those two. We got to get x by itself, and so it's actually going to be a horizontal one. Okay, here's what every teacher teaches this a little bit differently. I've done this a while, and this is how I'm going to, we're going to do completing the square. Here's what we're going to do. This is going to look a little bit different. I want you to add that 8x and the 15 to the other side. Okay, so that all you have is whatever was squared. That variable is the only thing on the left. And then we're going to do the half it, box it, square it thing. So this completing the square is going to look a little different, but a lot of it is the same old stuff. So take your positive 6, half it, box it, square it, and add 9. And so in terms of weight, I added 9 pounds to the left. There's no parentheses or anything here, so that I don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to say, okay, add 9 to the right. So what does this trinomial turn into? Y, go up to the box, plus 3 squared. If you're ever not sure if you did this right, really you could just do a quick y plus 3 times y plus 3. That should equal y squared plus 6y plus 9. All right, over here I have 8x plus 24. Okay, now if you remember what this should look like, all right, we need to isolate that 8x. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract 24. I just subtracted the 24. This right here, by the way, is the exact same thing. Watch what I'm going to do here. You could put that 8x on either side. But I don't want it to be 8x equals. In the standard form, it's just x equals. So how do you just get x? Divided by 8. So we have to divide everything by 8, including that 24. So look what I have here. I have a 1 over 8. See how it's just over 8, 1 over 8. Y plus 3 squared. And then what about this negative 24 over 8? Minus 3. Okay, that's the standard form. I'm not going to rewrite that. Okay, so this is definitely horizontal. And since this is positive 1/8, this is going to open right. So in the end, I know my parabola should open up to the right. Okay, I want you to write the vertex down on your own. See if you can figure it out. Look at your formula chart or look at the previous problem if you need to. On this one, because the two numbers are the same, you can make a tiny mistake and still get away with it. Okay, you look at with a horizontal, look at the outside number. Okay, keep the sign the same. Then look at the number next to the y on the inside, change that sign. Okay, plot that point. That's your vertex. If this is horizontal and opening right, then we should be able to find the axis of symmetry pretty easy. So that's why that one's next. Go ahead and write down the equation for axis of symmetry. Determine, is this an x equals or a y equals, and then what number? Okay, you should be getting y equals -3. Okay, focus. In order to find the focus, we need to figure out what P equals. Okay, I'm going to do this up here. If A equals 1/8, and that same thing is supposed to equal 1/4P, cross multiply, or really you can kind of look at this and tell, what does P equal? 2. It's a very common, P equals 1, 2, it's pretty common. All right, so which direction am I going to go to get the focus? Remember, we're opening right. So go to the right 2. And there's your focus, -1, -3.
Wait, why is it y equals -3?
Because it's a horizontal line. The axis of symmetry was a horizontal line, and the y value is -3. So we go to the right to get the focus, we write that down, go in the opposite direction and draw that line, and that's going to be the directrix, and that's going to be x equals -5, just looking at the graph. And then if P is 2, then what is absolute value of 4P? That's 8, and that's what we call the focal width. So through the focus, it's a total of 8, just like last problem. So go up 4 and go down 4. That's how wide the parabola is. That's how you figure out your other points. Before we move on to the next problem, I want to kind of go back to the definition really quick with this example. Okay, if you pick a point on this parabola and you draw the shortest distance to the directrix and the shortest distance to the focus, those are going to be the same distance. That's what the definition means. Okay, not that you have to know that, I just think it kind of helps make connection. All right, let's do one more example. Okay, example 3, non-standard form. There's an x squared but no y squared. So what type of parabola do you think this is? Probably vertical. I mean, it is. And I see fractions. One of the best math tricks that I need you to walk away from this class knowing is, if you have an equation and you have fractions and you don't want fractions, you can get rid of them very easily. So what could I do to get rid of that 1/2? Multiply everything by 2. That's going to give me, whoops, not 2. It's going to give me 1x squared, or just x squared, plus, I got to multiply everything by 2. So plus 2x plus 4y, and even the right side I got to multiply by 2. And now I don't have fractions. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Here we got out of it. Okay, keep these things. Subtract that -4y on the other side. And we need to complete the square. So what number do I start with? The 2. So somewhere where you got space, let's go 2 divided, we half it, we box it, and we square it. And then we counteract it by adding that same number to the other side. So I end up getting x plus 1 squared. And then add these two numbers together and you get -12. Okay, what you have to do at this point is get rid of the number That's out here, and then you got to divide by the -4. Okay, so we want to do x plus 1 squared plus 12 equals -4y. And you could switch the two, or you could divide by -4 now and then switch the two. Either way, you end up getting, I'm going to go ahead and put y first here. -1/4 x plus 1 squared minus 3. Because 12 divided by -4 is -3. All right, so this is vertical. Well, let me just reemphasize for anybody who feels like they got enough for today. We have not really done a vertical example yet. This is our one and only vertical example. You're more comfortable with these, but hopefully, but anyway. So, which direction is this going to open? Down. Okay, not right and left anymore because this is vertical. All right, and down because of the negative. Okay, look at what I'm going to do with the vertex. I'm not going to start off with the outside number. I'm going to start with the inside number and switch that, and then go to the outside number. You can use the formula or you can use this idea. Just know that if it's in parentheses, you're switching the sign. If it's outside of parentheses, you're not. The number on the inside was next to an x, that's why that one went first. And then we plot that point. And if this is vertical, then our axis of symmetry should also be vertical. So that's going to be x equals -1. To do anything else, we need to figure out what p equals. So this is where we use the formula a equals 1/4p. And if you can figure out what p equals just by looking at this, great. If you need to cross multiply, cross multiply. It kind of just depends upon how your brain thinks. So for a vertical, we're going up and down. Now I only need to go 1. So there's my focus, down 1, because this is going to open down. So -1, -4. Directrix is going to go up 1. And notice that that's a horizontal line. So see the x and the y in the horizontal problem versus the vertical problem, they're in different places. And then just look at your graph to help you with those numbers. You don't have to do the whole k minus p or h minus p. You can though, that works. Okay, what should I put in the very last blank here? Absolute value of 4 times p, and p is -1. 4. Okay, remember p is -1. 4 times -1, -4, absolute value, you get 4. So how far, and this time I'm going to go left and right, how far to the left and right should I go to get a total of 4? 2. You just half it. Go to the right 2, go to the left 2. Why do I keep doing that, guys? Catch myself at least, but okay, from the focus. Go to the right 2 and go to the left 2. That tells you how wide the parabola is through the focus. And then there we go with the rest of the parabola, and it did open down. You can check this one with your calculator. The horizontal one you cannot check because it's x equals. Works